So the question is, how might a non-dual approach be integrated by therapists? And I think the most important step is that therapists actually begin to inquire into who they really are, begin to question this presumption of a separate self. And because this can't be done theoretically. It has to come from one's own direct knowing and one's own direct experience. Otherwise, there's a gap. There's a sense of hypocrisy. It's really important, if a therapist is interested in this approach, that it not be theoretical, that it be experiential. And there are more and more therapists who are interested in this approach and are going to retreats and sitting with their own questions, deep questions of who they really are and what the nature of their experience is. So I think it starts there. I think for anyone in the helping profession, any kind of counselor, it really starts with the investigation of one's own direct experience, and then it transposes out quite naturally. This has been my experience working with people.
In fact, in any field, take for instance a student that wants to learn to play the piano. You go to a teacher, and the teacher can only take the student as far as they have gone. No amount of theoretical understanding of the music will make the piano teacher capable of teaching the student how to play the music. And it's exactly the same in this approach. Mm-hmm. If one doesn't know the source of peace and happiness in oneself, one cannot possibly expect to communicate it to someone else. One can only communicate one's own experience. And theory by itself is not enough. It's necessary to support the practical exploration, but by itself it makes very little difference.
And so it's interesting for therapists, for instance, when they're working with clients and they go deeply into their experience and it begins to open up, in surprising ways, when the apparent separate self begins to dissolve, it can be quite frightening, for a client and for a therapist as well. And because it feels like they're losing their ground, they're losing their orientation, they're losing their story. So I think it's really important at those points for therapists to, rather than trying to reconstruct or recreate the story and find some stable ground, to be curious about what this opening is. And both in the moment, if they can, and if not in the moment, to continue that exploration on their own.
That's very true. And in the non-dual teaching, one of the most frequently reported experiences as someone feels the dissolution of everything they previously considered themselves to be is this last moment of fear. I'm disappearing.
Yes.
I'm going to die.
Yes.
And in that moment, the separate self grabs for the known.
Some foothold, some handhold.
And crystallizes again.
That's right.
So fear is very often the last barrier.
That's right.
So in both a therapeutic context and in the context of non-dual.
It's the fear of dissolving and disappearing, of the disillusion of what we take to be ourself.
Yes,
and
it's the moth that is attracted by the warmth of the flame, but just before it embraces the flame, it realizes to merge with this warmth, to taste this warmth, I must die.
Yes.
And it pulls back.
Well, we're profoundly ambivalent. We're drawn to and yet afraid of that transition as well. But there are resources for therapists who are interested in a non-dual approach, and certainly many non-dual teachers now in the Bay Area and elsewhere, and other resources as well.